Welcome everyone to our August Change Day 2022 public meeting. We are excited to chat with you this evening. As a reminder, we do have quite the evening planned. So our session this evening is divided into 3 parts based on geography. So from 5 to 6 p.m., we will be covering proposed changes in Weber and Davis counties. 6 to 7, we'll cover Salt Lake County changes, and 7 to 8, we'll cover Tooele and Utah County changes. We'll go over the proposed changes. There will be ample opportunity to ask questions as well as provide comments. Before we jump in, I just want to give a little bit of a background and context and ask my colleagues too if they would like to chime in here. We know there are a lot of changes on this list, so we just wanted to kind of provide a disclaimer about some of them. So our proposed changes this year support long-term system improvement, bringing service in line with our 5-year service plan and other regional transportation plans. We do have quite a few changes that we're going to go over that were implemented in 2020 as part of emergency changes. They're now undergoing this public process to finalize the current service that is on the street. We will continue to evaluate those routes in the future, but that is kind of provides some context for some of the routes you'll see that were reduced or changed in 2020 in response to COVID-19 that we're making final at this stage. We also are facing continued resource constraints and staffing challenges. And so you'll see that in some of the proposed changes that we are still experiencing some staffing shortages that are impacting service provision. Nicole or Eric, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Nope, that sounds fabulous. Eric?
No, thanks, Megan. I'll talk about it a little bit more in just a minute, but go ahead.
Great. Okay, so as I said, we're getting into Weber and Davis counties now. I'm going to stop sharing and let Eric Callison, our manager of service planning, go ahead and start sharing his screen. As a reminder, you all have probably been on Zoom before, but if you haven't, there is a chat box as well as a Q&A on the bottom of your screen, and you're welcome to type in any questions you have throughout the meeting.
All right, thanks, Megan. Can you hear me okay? All right, just checking. So we're going to go over the Weber and Davis County changes first tonight. Just a couple of notes as we get started. Megan mentioned that there will be a number of changes in the presentation tonight that are not actual changes to what is running on the ground today. But because we made a number of emergency changes in 2020 in response to the COVID pandemic, we are finalizing the public process on those changes. We are required under federal law to finish that process. We were able to implement some of those changes in a rapid fashion due to the emergency nature of the situation. But we are now taking comment on any of those changes that happened during 2020. I will try to highlight as we go through this presentation which changes are actual changes to the service that's going on right now, and which changes are just finalizing the process for changes that happened 1 to 2 years ago. As Megan mentioned, we do continue to evaluate our routes. We do look at the daily ridership numbers on these routes, and within the resource constraints, particularly within the levels of staffing that we have available, we do plan on continuing to implement additional service and increase some of the services that were reduced or replace them with other services. That's a process that we'll do as fast as we are able to. And so we will not, at the end of tonight, we won't have the complete picture of where we'd like to be in the new normal, but we're taking as many steps as we can toward that process. Also, just a note, tonight we will go over routing changes, changes in hours of service, or what we call the span of service, and changes in the frequency of service, for example, 15 minutes versus 30 minutes. We will not be covering individual schedule changes, changes to time points, changes to departure times from individual bus stops. Those will not be finalized until after the public comment period is over. So it is possible that we say that a route has no changes in this presentation, and that means no changes to routing, hours of service, or frequency, but there could still be changes to the individual schedules. And that, again, that will be finalized after the public comment period is over and we've had time to go through all of the comments and the feedback that we've received. So real quick, talking about rail changes, again, these are all changes that have already occurred and we're just finishing the process. So tracks in the S line do have reduced frequencies on Saturdays versus what they were pre-COVID. And Frontrunner has similar frequencies, but we are not running all of the trips that we ran pre-COVID. There's a few trip times that we still haven't put back. So you're welcome to comment on any of those today, but that's where we are with tracks in Frontrunner. And I will skip to the Davis County real quick. I'm going to be skipping around a little bit depending on what geographic area we're covering in each hour. As we go through, this again is 2020 changes. So if you see, for example, if you ride Route 472, you'll notice that it says reduced. That does not mean we are reducing it further in August 2020. That means that it has already been reduced and we're having the public process on that at the moment. So there's a number of routes on here. You'll see Route 456, 460, 461, 462, 463, and 471 are proposed to be discontinued permanently. And those routes, all of these, the 460s and the 471 are going to be replaced by UTA on demand in Southern Davis County, which I'll show you in just a minute. Route 456 is just going to be discontinued. It does share a number of stops with Route 472. So we recommend that if you rode Route 456 prior to COVID, that you use either Frontrunner or ride Route 472 to the Tracks Green Line to access destinations on the west side of Salt Lake City. On this page also, we have routes 472 and 473. Those routes are running today, but they are running on a reduced schedule versus what they ran in 2019. And that's the schedule that we'll be running going forward for the foreseeable future. Route 601 is the Ogden Trolley, serves downtown Ogden, and we did make a minor reduction in the hours of service on this route. It starts a little bit later in the morning. It used to start about 7 o'clock in the morning. Now it starts about 8 o'clock. Still runs every 20 minutes to destinations in downtown Ogden. Again, that route will not be changing versus what it's running today. This is a change versus 2020. A number of other routes in the Ogden and Weber County area. We have Route 604. Frequency was reduced in 2020. We're going to continue with that. Route 608 will be discontinued because the facility that it served has closed during the pandemic. So there is no market for that route anymore. Route 612 is currently running reduced service north of Ogden Technical College, and that's a change that will continue for the time being. Route 613 as well will run a reduced frequency going forward. Route 616 was suspended in 2020, and it will remain suspended. It'll be on the books, but it'll still be suspended. We do propose to replace that with additional UTA on-demand service that would serve the communities of Pleasant View, North Ogden, Plain City, Marriott, Slaterville, Harrisville, and part of the city of Ogden. We're not able to implement that this year, but we would like to do that as soon as we're able to. So we're going to keep Route 616 on the books kind of as a placeholder for that. Route 625, 626, 627, and 645 in the Ogden area and also in kind of the Clearfield-Layton area also will be continuing to run the reduced schedule that we've been running since the start of COVID. We have a few additional changes that will actually be changes that are different from what's running on the ground today. And that's mostly in the neighborhood of Weber State. So Route 455 is a very long route. I'll point this out on some of the shorter routes when it's zoomed in a little bit more. But we will be making a routing change near Weber State University. The buses will no longer travel on 36th Street east of Harrison. They will use the roundabout on Edwilson to turn around and just come back the other direction. That's to avoid some unsafe left turns and create a better operating environment for our buses in general. But there are not going to be any additional schedule or routing changes to Route 455. Route 602 is a new route. It's replacing a current service that's the Weber State University Campus Shuttle. And we will be taking over this route and running it on days that Weber State University is in class until the OGX line in Ogden begins service, which is currently planned for 2023. So that route will run on school days. It'll run at least every 15 minutes on weekdays. And it will run basically from the Weber State campus down to the D Event Center. And it will make several stops along the way, similar to what the Weber State shuttle does right now. Route 603, again, will have this routing change. Now you can see it probably a little bit better on your screen. This routing change at Weber State, it will not travel on 36th Street anymore. Route F605 runs in Southern Davis County. That route is proposed to be discontinued because it lies completely within the area of the new UTA On Demand service. And I'll show you what the boundaries of that area look like in just a minute. Route 625, again, has the routing change at Weber State University, as well as Route 640. Route 645 has the same change at Weber State. In addition, we will be moving the southern end of line on Route 645 to the D Event Center. It's the same area that the Weber State shuttle will be using and that OGX eventually will be using when it goes into service. So a couple of minor route changes near the Weber State University area on Route 645. Route 650 as well will only travel on Edvilson, not on 36th Street. And finally, this is the UTA On Demand service area for Southern Davis County, would serve the communities of North Salt Lake, Woods Cross, Bountiful, West Bountiful, and Centerville. And that would replace the service that's currently suspended on routes 460, 461, 462, 463, 471, and the service that's running today on route F605. So just a couple of notes about this. If you have questions about this, we'll be happy to go into more detail, but UTA On Demand is a service that functions similarly to Lyft or Uber, that you can book a ride on demand from any point in this area to any other point. You may have to walk a little distance, a few hundred feet to maybe a street corner for the on-demand van to pick you up. But you're able to book rides either with a smartphone or you can call into the call center via our service provider, accepts both options. The fares would be the same as a typical UTA fare. If you have a pass, you are able to use that pass on this service. It does transfer to other UTA services. So if you are traveling outside of this area, you could transfer either to Frontrunner at the Woods Cross Frontrunner station, or you could transfer to bus routes 470 or 455 that both travel between Salt Lake and Ogden. And those are the changes for Weber and Davis County for August Change Day. So I'll turn the time back over to you, Megan, and I'll keep my camera on for any discussion that we have.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. So we're just going to go ahead and take any questions that you all might have. You can indicate that you have a question for us by typing it in the chat or the Q&A, or you also have the option of raising your hand and I can allow you to speak. We'll give it just a minute, make sure everyone has a chance to think about their questions. They have them. I'm not seeing any hands yet, but we'll be patient. If there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and advance the slide to our comment section. If anyone would like to make an official comment on the changes that were presented for Davis and Weber County, please raise your hand or feel free to, again, type in the chat if you'd like to be unmuted. I see a question that has come into the Q&A from Philip. Hi, Philip. Is 602 considered OGX, electric branded bus, initial free fare?
That's a great question. Initially, no, it will become part of the UVX line, but UVX. It will become part of the OGX line. But until OGX opens, it will just be a regular functioning local bus route. Weber State University students will be able to ride it with their cards, but it won't be part of the OGX network until the whole line opens in 2023.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks for your question, Philip. Okay, I see a hand from Trevin. I'm going to unmute Trevin, allow Trevin to speak.
Hello, I just also wanted to clarify the OGX, or sorry, the 602 will have electric buses, I believe is the plan when that begins service. Is that correct?
I don't believe it will have electric buses when it starts running in August, unless those are already, I don't know, is that, but you may know more about that than I do.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure either. But I just wanted to try to address that part of Philip's question.
Okay,
thanks,
thank
Trevin.
you. We
can find an answer to that and I can get back with you, Philip. I'm going to give one more call for questions or comments at this time from our audience and our participants. Okay, seeing none, I just want to send out a reminder that we will be reconvening at 6 p.m. For the Salt Lake County changes. If you are interested in hopping on, we'll be on Zoom for the entire 3 hours this evening. So if you need to hop on, ask questions about Weber or Davis County changes from 5 to 6, we will still be here. Please don't hesitate to hop on and come ask us some questions. Before we close the live version of this, I just want to provide a couple of reminders. So we do have an open public comment period ongoing right now through April 1st. April 1st is the deadline for official public comments on August Change Day 2022. You can find more information and submit your comments online at rideuta.com/August. You can also call to leave a comment or ask questions to our customer service team. Their number is 801-743-3882, option 5. And you can also email us at hearingofficer@rideuta.com. I did want to share a couple of resources in case this is helpful. Again, the website is rideuta.com/August, where you can find all of the changes that are being proposed outlined, as well as some maps. There's also a lot of helpful information about our on-demand services at rideuta.com/on-demand. We also really recommend using the transit app and trip planning tools as you prepare for potential changes coming in August. And if there is a need for additional support in adapting to new service or current service, our travel training team is an awesome resource. You can get in touch with them at 801-287-2275 or traveltraining@rideuta.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
If we have a minute, maybe we can look up see if we can get somebody on the electric buses on the 602. Philip, if you can stay on the line for just a minute, if we can get an answer to that.